Hey there, fans of brotherly love wrestling. It is I, Vic Delicious.
Philly's own, the Mecca here.
It is the real McCoy, J.D.X. Justin D. Xavier. And
it's your man, CD, the fallen angel, Christopher Daniels.
Hello, boys and girls. This is your old friend RJ City.
Hey there, brotherly love wrestling. Bill Carr here.
Hey everyone, this is two-time guest Wheeler Yuta.
Two bozos from Philadelphia flapping their gums about pro wrestling this, pro wrestling that.
Which is not that unique in the grand scheme of things yet.
You are in for a treat because you're tuned in to Brotherly Love Wrestling.
Philadelphia, are you ready?
No! They said, are you ready?
This is Brotherly Love Wrestling Podcast, your first stop for everything professional wrestling. So sit back and enjoy wrestling talk at its finest with your hosts, Larry Hall and Joe Corrado.
Welcome everybody to Brotherly Love Wrestling, and on the show this week to say as least as we could, we've been waiting to try and get this man on our show.
We've mentioned it numerous times on this show.
Yeah, we've had friends of his on the show. We've had a bunch,
colleagues,
whatever
you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. But we finally were able to get him,
Philadelphia's own
Mr. Drew Gulak. Drew, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for the very nice introduction.
You're welcome.
It's pretty cool, guys. It's really surreal. So, colleagues of mine, which colleagues? Who are we talking about?
Well, of course, we had the rep. We've had Yuta.
Oh,
none of your other colleagues from the bigger company because
well, it's a little hard to nail down.
The bigger company. What are you talking about? The bigger company.
Catch point.
Right.
Yeah. So obviously, Drew, wrestling.
How the hell have you been?
Yeah, how's everything going with? Obviously, you've been on Beyond. You've been making appearances on there. So how's it with doing that back and Beyond?
It's been, dude. It's awesome. Like Beyond Wrestling to me it was like such an important promotion to me as an independent wrestler, and for so many other people. You know, they could say the same thing where
it's a proving ground.
It was not only just a proving ground, like to me, Combat Zone Wrestling was the real proving ground. Like if you can entertain that audience, you're cool.
Yeah.
With Beyond, it was more about like creative exploration and freedom and like bucking the norms. Dude, like when they started, it was like just a ring set up in a warehouse or like a studio space that they rented. And there was no audience. It was just other wrestlers ringside. And so many people in the business looked at that as like, that's wrong. That shouldn't be allowed. Can't believe that they're doing that. You know, there was a couple indie guys at the time, Necro Butcher and M-Dog 20, I believe, who were going up there and taking bookings. But they were so ahead of the curve when it came to like social media and YouTube and like the way that they branded it was, this is wrestling for wrestlers. Like that's cool, but you're throwing these matches online where, you know, all the wrestlers are outside, all the characters are watching their colleagues fight, their peers fight. So it feels like this kind of underground Fight Club vibe to it. They had this ranking system where it was like, you'd win a point if you won, you'd lose a point if you lost. And like, you had a rankings. And then like the audience still watched this stuff on YouTube. Like there were regular fans that watched all the time. And I think I met Denver, Colorado, Drew Cordero in like 2011 or 10 after a Chikara show in Philly on South Street. And we just started talking about like the possibilities of like what would happen, you know, if you did this in front of a live crowd. Like the want is there, right? The market's there.
Yeah.
And then like, sure enough, they started running these shows locally up in New England. And then they started running bigger venues, and it kind of turned into the PWG of the East Coast at the time. But they had like the online following where, you know, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla was very much like a punk rock vibe, underground. Maybe people talked about it, but they didn't want anything to do with like publicizing their footage because of that style. You know, you had to hunt that footage down. You had to go find the DVDs or wait.
It's still that way. They don't.
Same deal. Yeah. And that, you know, that's a preference of the the promoter there, and that's how they built their following and their fan base.
Yeah.
With Beyond Wrestling, they were like, hey, everything's going to start being streamed. This was before like the WWE network was a thing. Netflix was like just its own app, just became its own app at the time. YouTube, you know, had been around for maybe like 4 or 5 years at the time. So, you know, wrestlers from my generation, we had to get the VHS tapes and the DVDs and that kind of stuff. So it was still foreign to us.
The good old
so
days.
Getting to go there so early and their like kind of comeuppance and meeting all the super hungry wrestlers they had there, like crazy group of guys who were just willing to like experiment and try things out and, you know, get better at wrestling. I was lucky that I had, you know, the little bit of world travel experience that I did at the time. So they were able to like kind of use that as a way to kind of help their guys gain experience. If they weren't really traveling so much, they could put them against me, or I could be around them in the locker room and kind of like, you know, help teach, but also, you know, practice my own style. And like, if it wasn't for that company, I can straight up tell you that the promotion Evolve would have never happened the same way. They found footage from Beyond of some of my matches at the time that were in front of like nobody, and they kind of saw a trend in technical wrestling kind of taking over the independent scene as a way to stand out, to be different, which I very much believed in. And
still do, right?
They started building the promotion kind of around that concept, and Catchpoint eventually formed out of that. And Beyond Wrestling has been going ever since. You know, I've always kept in touch with the promotion, even when I was signed to WWE. I would still go to the shows. I would still help kind of like come up with ideas and, you know, say like, hey, are you trying this out? How's it going? What's the independent scene like? You know, the Wrestling Open series started, so I got to kind of help brainstorm that kind of stuff when that was coming out. I would check out the shows when I was in town in Worcester. I would drag some of the WWE talent to go sit in the crowd there off the camera so they could experience it if they'd never seen indie wrestling for the first time. So to be able to come back after what feels like being stuck in a vortex, like a time vortex for like 8 years straight, to jump right back in there, you know, with everything that all the challenges I've had to go through since then, and them to be like, nope, come on, we're doing this, we want you back, like means the world to me. And like, there's a lot of fans up there who still remember from back in the day, you know, 10 years ago, back in the day. And, they're still like super excited, and they've kept going, you know, and it's a family owned business up there. It's a real independent promotion, you know, it's a real like do it yourself, gonna make it happen. Let's try stuff out. If it fails, it fails. If it succeeds, then exactly like great, and maybe other people will copy it. Like no selfishness whatsoever there. It's a really awesome environment. So yeah, to be back in Beyond Wrestling, like I'm gonna keep going on and on. You know, I'm super happy with that, and
please
very
do.
excited to be back there. Yeah, very excited to be back there. Gotta, you know,
and being back there now, as opposed to being there first, I mean, your knowledge has grown substantially, of probably, I would imagine. So now you're teaching a whole new generation. It seems like the common thread is teaching. Like you're always there for someone to learn something. Like, have you always had that? Like,
I think it's when I started training at the Combat Zone school, you know, like Zandig was the head trainer there. And he could only show us so much. So then they had John Dahmer as the other head trainer there. And DJ Hyde was the assistant trainer at the time. And really the mentality there was pay it forward. So every time, like when I came in, it wasn't just Zandig and Dahmer and DJ showing me how to wrestle. Mm-hmm. It was guys like Andy Sumner and Ace Delic, Joker, Sabian, Chris Cash, you know, Lobo, Nick Gage, all those guys from different generations who had come through that school in some form, would pass on their Nick Burke, Z-Bar, those guys. Trent Acid used to come down. You could pick anyone from that generation. They were the ones who would show up and they'd teach us some stuff. And then we'd have our drills, and then we'd go and do seminars with the Chikara, training out in Allentown at the time with Quackenbush and Chris Hero. But the mentality was pay it forward. You help the next class that comes in. So like, I don't know, I started maybe 3 weeks before Danny Havoc. So I was like in his group, but I was also like, okay, yeah, practice this drill with me. And then after that, it was like Joe Gacy's class, and Lindsay Dorado was with that group, and Ophidian, Amasis, Tyler Veritas was after that with Adam Cole and a bunch of guys. So, within 5 years, I was kind of helping out as an assistant trainer, just following that path. I worked for a long time as a camp counselor in the summers as well, and I always had good mentors around me. And I think that that kind of like helped me, appreciate the learning process and the mentoring process. And, to me, it was always just something that you do. It was never really something that like, oh, I want to be a teacher. Like, no, it's what you do, like you pass on what you've learned so that everybody can grow, and, you'll succeed because of that. Just as a byproduct. And it was never, a thing where it's like, I have to teach. I love teaching. Like, yeah, okay, I do, but it's just something that I was always around and I grew up doing. And I can't stop it. And just, if you're around and you want to talk, and if you want to learn some stuff, if I know some stuff that you don't know, or vice versa, like, let's chat,
Now, do you feel like that's falling more by the wayside, or is it still pretty steady throughout the wrestling industry?
You saying like other people doing
like
it?
Pay it forward. Is that losing its?
I don't think it's lost. I don't think it's ever lost anything. I don't think it was ever like the prominent thing to teach people. I think our school was very pay it forward heavy. At least the CZW school was, and by proxy, that's how Catchpoint is. So that's just the environment I was in. I can't speak for other schools specifically. It was a pay it forward mentality. Chikara was a little stricter because the coaches were very much set and they had tons more experience than everyone else. But there was still, a seniority as far as ranking with students and stuff like that, and helping out the new class. But there wasn't the same kind of like pay it forward mentality. I would say that it hasn't changed very much. It's just a rare thing, I think, to find in communities and learning environments. And when you do find it, it's a very special thing. And I don't think that's gone away.
Yeah, I think we talked to the amount of people that we've talked to, and especially people that have been in the business 10, 15, 20 years, that's one thing that they always say is
like they want to help.
Exactly. And they want to leave the business. That's the biggest saying we've heard the entire time is leave the business better than when you found it. Yeah. And I think that, to your point, like I think that's where Joe was asking, like, is that still a thing? Because I know you hear a lot of things about certain eras in WWE to where there may be those veterans who didn't really care to bring along some of the younger guys and stuff like that you hear those stories.
You're also making a lot more money out there.
Yeah. But you hear it being this Shark Tank of, you know what I mean?
I don't think the money has anything to do with it.
No.
But I will say that, like, there's always going to be a group of people who are out for number one, and that's all well and good. It's their right to do that, to the point where they will hold other people down. And that, to me, is like, that's an insecurity kind of thing, but in, political environments, you do see that quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I've seen it for sure. I've definitely seen it. I'm definitely not calling out names. But I will say that there were quite a few people who were willing to help out and wanted, us, when I got to WWE, to go and ask them, like, hey, did you watch my match? What did you think? What are some ideas you have? What surprised me the most about working there was just how collaborative everything happened to be. Because not only do you have like these veterans who have been doing it for years and years, been very successful at it at a high level, you have an entire creative team, to the point where there's writers and assistant writers, head writers, executive producers, directors. And that's just like on the kind of creative / coordinating side, then you have like the techs, like the cameramen, the broadcasting team, the lighting department, the sound department, the graphics department. There's so many different layers that they have there that, like, if you just strike up a conversation with someone, you're going to learn something, because you're talking to, not only are they there and have that specialty, they're the best at it too. So it comes down to like not being afraid to get out of your eggshells in that environment, or not being afraid to get out of your shell, and finding the right people who are willing to talk to you and maybe want to give back in that sense, because they most of them do. Most of the veterans do want to do that.
I'm going to sidetrack us like I do so well. Now, I was thinking about this earlier today. Is there anyone that you got in the ring with that you were like genuinely shocked? Like, I didn't think you were going to be that good, but they're like shocked in like a good way, where you're like, maybe first time you got in the ring with someone, you're just like, oh, I did not expect this to go like this.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like I don't have I don't have an expectation set for anything really.
No,
no, not really. No, I've never been that way. Yeah, it's never been like, oh, this guy sucks, and like, oh, he's actually pretty good. Like, no, I give everyone the respect, to like, if they're willing to get in and do this, like, no judgment if you're at a certain skill level or not.
All right.
It's more,
I can respect that.
Yeah. I mean,
was anyone freakishly stronger than you thought then?
Freakishly stronger than I thought? Oh, I mean, even the guys who are strong are like freakishly stronger than for real. Like the dudes like Otis and Big E, who you hear about like being freakishly strong.
Yeah.
Like you can't really figure that out until you're in there with them. Guys like Eric Bugenhagen, Boogs.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah. And then you got the super heavyweights like Omos and like Big Show and Kane, Lesnar. Like, yeah, they're strong, but like, dude, you don't know. Yeah.
All right, that's kind of what I wanted to know.
Yeah. So I did want to kind of touch on. There's a couple things that I was looking at as far as your past with WWE, as far as like the Cruiserweight Classic, and then what led you to the main roster and stuff like that. What was it like with the Cruiserweight Classic? Because this was something that we haven't seen from WWE almost ever, like to focus like this on the cruiserweights the way they did, and the amount of talent that pool had was absolutely insane.
It generated a lot.
Yeah, no, it was super surreal to be a part of that. I think Triple H started getting more kind of creative freedom and like responsibilities on that end at the time with NXT. So they were looking for more streaming, content to go up on the internet. And Cruiserweight Classic was just this kind of brainchild of like him and William Regal, where they wanted to do almost like a Super Juniors tournament. Like, the stuff that we used to have to track down VHS tapes to watch.
Yeah.
That I would get sat down at the CZW school on the couch in the back with Nick Gage and Joker and be like, this is Jushin Liger. This is who he really is, not just the WCW stuff. So they kind of like came up with this idea of like creating like a sport oriented program. Everything was going to be sports. And the Cruiserweight Classic, which I think it was called like the Global Cruiserweight Series or something first, was the concept of that, where we're going to take a lot of unsigned talent from around the world. We're going to put them in this sports environment, and then we're going to create a TV show based around that, hopefully as a pilot. So the Cruiserweight Classic, was that opportunity. So I remember being backstage with TJP, talking about how, we grew up watching guys like Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero as the foreigners going over to Japan, for those tournaments. And it's like, we're going to kind of be that for like another generation, that, right? Like that's what he was telling me. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So yeah, that was a really surreal experience. It was literally like most of us were not under contract for that thing. I believe the only ones who had a deal of some kind were maybe Gargano and Ciampa, who were doing like part-time work with them or like kind of a trial run with them in their first contract. Rich Swann was another one too. He was just getting his footing in developmental there. So yeah, so for the rest of us, it was just like, hey, are you guys free on this day? Would you like to come in and work? You know, most of us had tryouts prior to that. Little did we know they were scouting for, you know, what would become 205 Live.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really wild time. And like that kind of can be traced back to like when CM Punk got hired as an independent talent, right? He was like the guy who broke all the molds at the time. Like no one would hire people like that. And they said, no, he's good enough. Let's bring him in and give him a chance, you know? And eventually it led to Bryan Danielson getting hired. You know, Kendrick and London back in the day, those guys, those post WCW, ECW talents that started coming in from the independent scene. Like they were the ones who snuck through that kind of opened up the potential for what we could have. And now it's just like blossomed like crazy with the WWID program that's happening. Yeah. So it can all be traced back. And to be the Cruiserweight Classic was like kind of a very pivotal moment, you know, not just for that, but also the company. Like that was kind of their test for what WWE UK would become. Yeah. You know, which had the pandemic not happened the way it did, like could have spawned
that probably would have
Europe,
still been,
WWE South America,
been
WWE Japan, WWE India, WWE China, like all these different global kind of like territories, which was the vision at one point, you know.
I mean, maybe Netflix will help revive it.
There is a certain amount of freedom that comes with Netflix, you know. There was a time when they were just greenlighting every movie that would come through there.
Yeah.
So like to kind of like take a risk on having WWE Raw be like their first ever live regular television program, like that's the right show to put on there. That's the right team to do it with.
It's got a fantastic history, doesn't it?
Just the like I was talking about earlier, like the skill level that comes with the machine that is WWE. Like they can make any kind of broadcast or production happen. Like if you want a movie, they got a studio, they'll go make it. You know, if you need a 3-hour live TV show, they can go make it. If you need a cartoon, they can go make it. If you need an overproduced, you know, in the can wrestling tournament, they can go make it. You know, they have the resources to do it. And like, it goes back to wrestling being like one of the first things that was just media friendly back when when TV started. You got a ring, you got a good guy and a bad guy sometimes, or you have two people competing over some kind of a stake, you know, a win or a loss. And then you could just mix that up however you want. So like they got all the resources for it. They got the right crew for it. And if they don't have it, they can get it, you know? So it's a good marriage. I don't know. I mean, they're going to have live TV shows all the time, I think, in a couple of years based on that. So yeah, it's a really exciting time. Like Cruiserweight Classic was just a step to get to this. So it's really, it was really cool in hindsight being a part of it. When I was in the moment, it was surreal and like exciting and like, you know, fun. It was really fun, surprising, and you know, there were just everything else was just a nice surprise that happened from then on. Like, yeah, for all of us.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about for you is the 24/7 title, which a lot of people looked at.
I mean, it was 50. I think it was a 50-50.
I got it back there in the pink closet right now.
50-50 if you would talk to fans about the 24/7 title.
Maybe 80-20. I don't know.
But
it depends. I mean, like
being there live
for the very diehard fans, yes.
Yeah.
Then it is 50-50.
Yeah.
Because some of them are like purists and they think it's a joke. Other ones are like, it was so super entertaining.
It was.
The majority of WWE fans were like, oh yeah, the 24/7 championship.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it you know, our truth. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, like that's where that ended. But when you get to the hardcore fans, it's very polarizing.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the one thing I believe, what do you have, 7 or 8 time holder, right?
Something I think technically I'm a 7-time holder. Some people say I was the gobbledygooker for one of them.
That's the rumor.
I can't speak on who the gobbledygooker was. You know, it was a big goofy costume we'd see backstage. Yeah. One time they thought it was funny. They put me in it for some bit with Enzo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but whoever holds that title, I can't speak to that. You know, everything that's on my Wikipedia is not accurate.
Yeah, and that's why I was asking.
The internet did it again.
Because of that. I heard that, and I'm like, well, I mean, now that you're on, I get to ask it. But like, as being a fan growing up, to be in that costume. You know what I mean? Such an
Just to be around
iconic.
that costume.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to call it a blunder, whatever you want to. I mean, the anticipation for the gobbledygooker was
No,
the
it was
blunder.
awesome. Like
But-
to wear that costume, you know, for that time that I was definitely in it. Not the other times I can't speak on because I don't know who was in the costume.
Yeah.
It was
Just an
it was
interrogation.
surprising to see like how well it was engineered for how long that thing's been around, and like they remade it at one point, and they had to get it like mostly right for the second time. I think the second time they created it was off, and then the third time they remade it, they had to go back and get it very close to it. But yeah, that's an infamous moment in wrestling history, the big turkey hatching out of the egg.
Yeah.
SummerSlam. That is such like a cornball idea.
Yes, absolutely.
But like it makes sense. Like, oh, it'll be fun for kids. Sure. It's not really it's not that hard to think about.
Yeah.
But then all the serious, old heads want to shit on it or whatever. Like, whatever. It's and then they'll say, like, oh yeah, it was Vince trying to like make money off it. Like, duh, that's what he does for everything. So like it's not that big of a deal.
Kind of the reason for business.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just always like a wacky costume character. It looked like a baseball mascot,
Yeah, on crack.
Yeah, exactly. The eyes and everything. Yeah. Wild looking. So yeah, no, it was pretty sick to be in. I do have a picture of me in the what's it called? The props truck with the head, holding it on that Thanksgiving episode. And yeah, it's pretty wild. I got to do that.
You think Gritty could take the Cougar?
Who?
You think Gritty could take him in a fight?
Gritty?
1-on-1? Yeah.
I don't know. I think they would get along, or Gritty would try to eat him or something like that. I feel like Gritty's too friendly for that kind of thing. You know what though? If you picked a fight with Gritty, he would fight you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
100%.
He would win like half the time. So I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50.
You think he's a big drinker? He could be hammered the one time.
From what I've seen of him, I don't think he's that big of a drinker.
No. He's got to be doing something.
Way too much coordination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
I've never seen a South
be on
Philly
perform-
drunk that coordinated in my life.
Very
he might
true.
be on performance enhancers then. I think something. Or the drug test that guy.
Yeah.
So you touched on a little bit in the very beginning, but catch point and this iteration of it and making the school and being in Philly, being in their hometown, is that something that while in WWE you kind of had that thought in your mind? How to come about? And and of course the location.
Yeah, I was a reborn.
So I was brainstorming having a school for maybe the last 10 years. It was more like, man, if I had my own resources, what would I do with it? How could I make it? I could do this for people. I could run it like this or make it more freeing for people. Like that was always in the back of my mind, and then as I was, training a lot at the Performance Center in my own time, I thought about like, man, I could, I wonder if they'd still let me do that, but I don't know if I could do it close to here. I do it far from here. And then like just the further along I got more frustrated with like not having my own like ring that I could use if I needed to, or my own building that I could just start sort of building stuff for people. I just like got really frustrated and I just sucked it up and did it. Like I remember 2 years ago, I was visiting home and just walking around downtown, just looking at like, this building's for rent. Let me call them up. And I must hit 3 or 4 just walking through like South Philly and Passyunk around there.
Mm-hmm.
And the realtor, who I see ads all the time for her buildings, helped me find that location that it's at now. Now it's located in Kensington, 5 minutes off of 95, exit 25. So that's the Allegheny. It's the Allegheny exit. Yeah. But you just take one street up to Westmoreland Street, drive down 5 minutes, and it'll be there on the left. It's a solid black building right now. Kind of brainstorming a mural for it, and some kind of a sign if we need it. But like everything kind of is low key, word of mouth. You need to know the secret knock to get in, that kind of thing. Which I like that. I like, you got to kind of know to be there, because then you want to be there. I don't just have people wandering in off the street all the time. I do get some locals that wander in there when the doors open, and that's always funny because they're not expecting a wrestling ring to be in there. But yeah, it's
are they really surprised though? It's
yeah,
it's kind of
they're like, what is this? They think some of them pop in there like, is this boxing? You know, and then I'm like, no, it's professional wrestling, like with chairs. And I'm like, yeah, we got those. Yeah, so it's just something I've been kicking around for a long time. I got so fed up with it. I had the resources to do it. I got permission to do it from WWE, had everybody sign off on it, and yeah, started it up. I opened it up in 2023, right? Last July. So I started scouting for it in 22. Yeah.
And where your coaches, as far as Hot Sauce and Yuta, like, were they first on the list? Do you have other people that you wanted?
So the location, like I brainstormed one in Orlando, I brainstormed one in Philly, one in Chicago, one in New England, one in LA, one in Vegas. I just started like thinking about who I knew in different parts of the country that were capable of like teaching and maybe would want to teach and were good enough to do it, and not so strict that they wouldn't want to like come up with their own thing with me. Like I thought about the right team more than anything, and the proximity to where I could get there. Okay. And for Philly, like it would have been cheaper for me to open a school in Jersey or in the suburbs in like Huntington Valley or Delco. I kind of needed it to be in the city. It's definitely a little pricier. There are no wrestling schools in the city. There's the Worldwide Dojo up in Bristol. There's the Monster Factory over in Gloucester. But like there's really nothing in town. And that was kind of like sad for me. I grew up in town training at the ECW arena literally like 4 days a week for, I don't know, 9 years. So to not have anything there was kind of like a bummer. So it was important for me to get that. And then I thought about like the people I knew in town. Hot Sauce was kind of like, I wasn't sure about it. I thought about New York finding a school there because he's in Manhattan. That's where he's based. Wow. And he loves it there. He's not moving. Yeah. So,
why do people like New York so much?
If you're born there, you're born there. Some people are attracted to the glitz of like, Broadway, that kind of stuff, or the school. Gotcha. Really, the schooling is huge there too. So expensive. So expensive there. But the he was on board. We talked about it for a little bit. He didn't know if he'd come all the time. And then we talked about, when he was training with us in Chikara, he would jump on the Chinatown bus twice a week, every week for however long he trained and for however long he continued wrestling, and would keep coming to the school. And that was just like his routine. So he does that now. He jumps on the bus once a week, gets over there on Thursdays. He's our coach. Yuta had originally moved to Philadelphia to train with me back in 2012, I believe he started. So that was great. And then he went to school in Villanova, and he stuck around the area, and like there was no real wrestling school for him there. And he made like a joke to me. We were hanging out maybe 3 years ago. He's like, yeah, and then I'll be your trainer, and then you could run the school. And it was just like kind of like a what if. And I'm like, ha ha ha, yeah. It's gonna happen. And he was down. Yeah, he was down to do it on the Mondays. I got Nate Carter there from the Rep, who is, or Nate Wallace. Sorry, he goes by his God-given name now, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, we made the same mistake when he was on. I introduced him as that.
I used to haze him for that name. Like, come on, you're gonna be the Nate Carter at the party starter. I was like, you can do better than that. I was like, what's your real name? He said Wallace, and I was like, that's way better. Like, no one's called that. Anyway, so yeah, so he was down to do the Tuesday. I know he was training some other schools in the area, but like he wasn't happy there, and I think he didn't have the flexibility and the proximity of being in Philly. He didn't have to travel over the bridge, which is where he was going once a week, and then we were able to give him kind of a better agreement with that. And like, he is a wonderful coach. He motivates them like crazy. Like we just had a graduation on Thursday, and it's our 8th graduating class at Catchpoint. And at the end of the graduation, we kind of like, all the coaches who are there, who get to be there for their schedule, like one at a time, kind of like give them a little piece of advice and like thank them, the graduates. I always have Nate go last because he just like gives this Braveheart style speech, which he's a Wallace, so that makes sense now that I think about it.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, it's just this weird, ironic circle. And he's so talented, so good at that. And I love having him there. He's a wonderful mentor and just a good person. And then we have Vito Von Starr, who is, she was one of my students at the Chikara school. Then when that shut down, I told her to go train up in Bristol with Cheeseburger in the Worldwide Dojo. And she lives in the city as well. So I asked if she would be interested in coming on as an assistant coach. She has an awesome athletic background, with circus arts and performing arts and just being a personal trainer, and takes fitness very seriously, and she's a woman in the business, so she has that experience that, I could never replicate. And having her on board is like huge too. And she's great with the kids and just a good coach. So she takes the Mondays as well with Yuta. So they'll do it together or they'll switch on and off depending on the schedules. Then I have Kurt Robinson there, who moved back up from, I think he was in North Carolina at the time. And he had trained with me when he was 13, started when he's 14, maybe. Yeah, 14. So he was very young when he started coaching with me, or started learning from me. I mean, up at the Combat Zone school. So for him to come back up, trying to like renew his career and rejuvenate his career, I have him there as like an assistant trainer. Also like helping me manage the building when I'm away. So we have a great coaching team. I still got veterans like Joker and Sabian who will come back. I have Nick Burke there on Saturdays, who's, I don't know, he's been wrestling for like 30 years on the independents up in the Philly scene. And he'll do this really cool class with them on Saturdays. We do it virtual, or he'll do it co-virtual where they'll broadcast from the school. He'll watch a match back with them, a classic match, and then talk about the psychology and, answer questions and discuss it with whoever's, in the class at the time. And then he'll take them in the ring and he'll teach them how to apply the skills that they had learned from that match to, their own skill set. Yeah, it's really wild. He helped conceive that class. So he's there coaching. On Fridays we do like a lucha libre only class where they can learn those techniques. Right now we have Ultimo Ant and the Hermit Crab, who are two of my guys at Chikara who wanted to stick around and do that. And then we have other guest coaches come through as well. So like just having that kind of a team and like people who are wanting to give back like that and work together to kind of like just have fun and better the industry. Like I can't ask for anything more. So the coaching is very important. And we're very lucky that we have all those people that want to do it. I had some other friends that live in town when I was thinking about opening it. And I guess just because of scheduling or whatever, they haven't been able to come through as much. But very, very close to the city still. And the people who are still
you're in the city.
You can't get much
Kensington, but still the city. At least you're not in K and A. I mean, you're good.
Pretty close to that.
Yeah,
pretty close.
Yeah, I know. You're not in it.
Rocky's house from the movie is like a stone's throw away from where our school is.
Just keep your doors locked. You'll be all right.
Don't go. Yeah. No, it's really not bad around the school. It's not a bad.
It's one of the built up sections, kind of.
So when I scouted that location, like I looked up the sheriff's reports and like the crime reports in the areas and stuff, because like it can be bad in certain parts of Philly, and like right where we are, it's right on the border of where Harrogate is, and Allegheny is right there too. Like that little area, like there wasn't much violent crime going on. There was like the occasional drug crime or the occasional break-in.
Yeah.
Which if you're in the city, that's going to happen if you're leaving stuff out. So you just got to have a little know-how. It's not, where we are, it's not dangerous. We haven't had any issues, knock on wood, and we want to keep that going.
Yeah.
So aside from Catchpoint and still being on the independent scene, what do you have any other ventures that you're on?
What do you mean?
Like, besides not wrestling
right now?
Yeah, not wrestling related.
Let me think. I mean, right now, like a lot of my attention has gone to the school.
Yeah.
And the independent career is great. Like I have a lot of flexibility there, which is, I don't know. I went through 4 different contracts with WWE. I finished every single one, despite what the rumors say. Yeah, and like I'm very fortunate that I have freedom right now. So
you kind of relaxing then?
well, I wouldn't say relaxing. Like me and my wife just had our first child.
Oh,
back-
congratulations.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much. Back in August. Yeah, she just turned 3 months old.
You're talking to two girl dads right here.
Yep.
It's fun.
Oh,
Yeah, it is.
let's go, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We got
It's
we got
the best,
info.
right?
It
How old are your
is.
kids?
Mine is 5.5.
Yeah,
Wow.
mine'll be 3 in March.
Okay, so any advice? I got a 3-month-old.
Yeah, look, there's for this amount of time for where you're at right now. I mean, you're just you're diapering it up. I mean, you gotta once they start crawling,
diapering it up.
Yeah, you're diapering it up. You're just wiping asses. Once they start crawling and start developing the personality is where you're really just gonna be like, wow, this is like just the most incredible. Like once they start like blabbering and like, have you gotten laughs yet? Have you gotten like belly laughs? Belly laughs.
We haven't gotten full on like regular belly laughs, but she's laughing every once in a while now.
Yeah, once you get your first belly laugh, it cracks.
Dude, I'm getting
you
this
up.
one right now. So she's only 3 months, but like when mom will be holding her and I'll be in the room with her and I'll look over and I'll say something. She'll go that, and I'm like, all right, come here. You know, like
Yeah.
we're there right now. That's
awesome. But that's something that you're always going to remember too. You're going to remember all these things that you're going to go through. Where you're just going to be like, this is amazing, and then it's going to hit. You're going to be like, where the hell did all the time go?
Yeah,
because it goes so friggin' quick.
Yeah,
blink of an eye, without a doubt. I think the best thing, but advice I got, and it's from probably one of the most unlikely sources I've ever think I would have gotten it from, is actually from Tommaso Ciampa.
He's a great dad.
I was messaging with him because they put that documentary out, and he went through like all the loss and him and his wife doing IVF, and me and my wife went through something similar. I just basically thanked them for putting that out there because not a lot of people talk about that kind of loss and stuff. And when I had my daughter, I sent him a picture. I just said, thank you for lifting me up when I needed it. And this is my daughter. And so me and him went back and forth. And same thing like you did. I said, is there any advice being a girl dad? And he said, when you have 5 minutes and he said, don't look at it as, oh, I have to watch her for 5 minutes. I have to watch her for 10 minutes. You get to watch her for 5 minutes. You get to like cherish every last second you get. And that, even though it sounds very simple, it changed my outlook on with my daughter forever. Like it's one of the best pieces of advice I ever got.
I think that's great. Yeah, it's beautiful. I will. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The advice with kids, man, it's needed because they'll keep you on your toes for sure.
Yeah,
dude. There's so many YouTube videos that say conflicting information out there, right? I'd rather just hear it from someone I know.
So here's the thing.
I know it's going to be different for everyone, but
that's what I've learned because my wife was big on like she's very paranoid. She's like, I gotta check Google. What does Google say? Google says we need to just have a feeling. Like let's not just what jumped it. Like internet's so polluted.
Yeah.
It's just like just go off a feel, and that's always what I did. I just went off a feel. Like I mean,
what did people do before there was?
Yeah, I thought like
there was Zoom. How did we do it?
My dad doesn't know how to use anything. Like very smart man, but when it comes to hands-on stuff, nothing. So
yeah,
if he could do it, I can do it.
Exactly.
That's how I looked at it, and I think he did a great job. I mean,
that was my man brain logic when I was trying to calm her down too. Well, babies have been around forever, you know. Think of all the dumb people that have done it. We could do this, you know.
Yeah, what?
That's how I calmed her down.
They don't like to hear that sometimes.
Yeah.
No, shut up and listen. I get that too. I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Drew, we want to thank you so much for taking the time. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was great talking to you. Finally getting to talk to you, getting you on the show. We really, really appreciate talking to you, seeing you.
Everything's doing well.
Yeah, we love seeing you thrive, and we love Catchpoint. Love the idea of giving back.
Yeah, if anyone wants to, if they want to sign up for the school or come take a class, you know, all the information's on the website at thecatchpoint.com, catchpoint.com. Yeah, it's all, you know, we got a new beginners class starting on January 13th. Our latest one, our 8th class, just graduated on Thursday. We do it differently than every other school. We do a 6-week course. You're there Monday through Thursday, and at the end of it, you're having your first professional match, and then you are free to go and wrestle however you see fit. If you want to sign up for our dynamic program, which is catered towards more experienced wrestlers, we typically do that Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 or 8 to 10. Right now it's 6 to 10 because we're on the off schedule. We're doing a special right now where it's half off for drop-ins, or first time students, I mean, to come in there. So yeah, if you're curious about training with us in Philly in Catchpoint, like now's a good time to do it. Yeah, the catchpoint.com. We're located in Kensington, right downtown or north of downtown. In downtown. It's in the city. We're right off 5 minutes off 95, guys. You can find us pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, please check us out.
Yeah. All right, Drew, thanks again. We really appreciate it. We hope everyone enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll be talking to you very soon. Also, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Enjoy the football, the family, the food.
And the gooker.
Yeah, of course. And the gobbledygooker. Can't forget about that at Thanksgiving time. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you later.